I'm Jason, UFC, and today we have a story about UFC President Dana White is uncertain if Dricus Du Plessis will get the next middleweight title shot. Quote, I don't love when guys turn down fights, is what Dana White said after Dricus Du Plessis defeated Robert Whittaker in July, 2 months ago. All signs pointed to Dricus Du Plessis getting the next title shot, as Israel Adesanya even went in the cage. And Israel Adesanya is the champion. Israel Adesanya went in the cage to face off with Dricus Du Plessis. However, Dricus Du Plessis revealed he had an injury and wasn't able to make the quick 2 month turnaround to face Israel Adesanya in Sydney, Australia this weekend at UFC 293. The news was disappointing, especially with Israel Adesanya claiming at Media Day that Dricus Du Plessis will now need to win a fight or two to get a title shot after turning down this offer. This is what I guess Israel Adesanya says. I don't know. You have to ask Dana White. Dricus Du Plessis doesn't know how to, quote, play the game. Look, you can't sit on your F it is ranking or whatever and think you've got it locked in. This is the UFC. If you look back at the history of the UFC, stuff happens, you know? So he thought he was sitting pretty, but he might have to fight two more times before he gets a shot at this, is what Israel Adesanya, UFC middleweight champion, said at the 293 media day. That's what Israel Adesanya said. Now this is what Dana White says. Dana White is, I'm not gonna say that. After the Contender Series, Dana White was asked about Dricus Du Plessis, and he admitted he wasn't happy with Dricus Du Plessis. With that, Dana White admits he is not sure if Dricus Du Plessis will get the next title shot against the winner of Israel Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. This is what Dana White says during the Contender Series post-fight press conference, I guess. I don't love when guys turn down fights. You know, this is what Dana White says. You know how much I love guys who turn... What? You know how much I love guys who turn down fights? I don't know. Maybe he's being sarcastic there. We'll see what happens Saturday, and we'll go from there, Dana White said about Dricus Du Plessis. If Dricus Du Plessis does not get the next title shot, it's uncertain who would. If Israel Adesanya wins, as the odds suggest, he's like a 6-1 favorite over Sean Strickland. Perhaps, and most likely, the winner of Hamza Chimaev versus Paulo Costa at UFC 294, I believe, in October, could leapfrog Dricus Du Plessis. But to some surprise, it isn't for sure that Dricus Du Plessis will get the next title shot. What's going on here? I don't understand this story at all, right? Like, now listen, I'm a MMA casual, right? So I don't watch every single thing that happens in the UFC, but I get it. Sean Strickland, he did fight about 2 months ago, but Sean Strickland fought like an unranked middleweight, and he won his fight in the second round. I guess he didn't take any injuries, so he was ready to fight this September. But Dricus Du Plessis fought Robert Whittaker, who is the #1 contender in the middleweight division, and he finished him. It wasn't a boring 3-round, lay and pray decision. He finished Robert Whittaker, the #1 contender in the middleweight division, right? 2 months ago. So I don't understand why the UFC is like, well, you know what? Unless you take the fight 2 months later, you're going to miss your opportunity. Like, how many challengers, right? Look at recent events. Look at recent fights. How many challengers fought 2 months before getting a title fight, right? If you look at the heavyweight division, Stipe Miocic, his last fight was 2 years ago. The UFC light heavyweight division, Alex Pereira and Yuri Prochazka. I mean, Prochazka hasn't fought this year, Pereira just fought in August, right? So he's not fighting anytime soon. If you look in the middleweight, okay, Sean Strickland, he fought 2 months ago. He fought in July. He defeated a unranked middleweight, right? An unranked middleweight, and he's prepared for a September fight, right? So that's fine. But then you look at the lightweight division. Islam Makhachev, he last fought in February. He fought Alexander Volkanovski. Volkanovski, before fighting Yuri Rodriguez, his last fight was like I think it was last July versus Max Holloway. So it wasn't like a 2 month turnaround for Alexander Volkanovski, who's the featherweight champion. He defended his belt versus Yuri Rodriguez, and Rodriguez last fought in, I think it was February versus Josh Emmett, right? So it wasn't a 2 month turnaround for him. Sean O'Malley fought Aljamain Sterling. Sean O'Malley last fought before he won this fight was like last October, and he fought, who did he fight? Piotr Jan, and that was like was that last October? That wasn't a 2 month turnaround. So I don't understand this idea that I didn't even talk about the welterweight division. Let's look at the welterweight division. As of right now, I don't think anyone in the top 10 is scheduled for a fight. Leon Edwards defeated Kamaru Usman in, what was that, March of this year? He's not scheduled for a fight. Colby Covington, who is allegedly the #1 contender, his last fight was versus Jorge Masvidal. That fight was last year. That fight wasn't 2 months ago. So why is the UFC putting this quote unquote new standard, right? Well, if you fought 2 months ago, if you're not ready to fight, in 2 months, all of a sudden you're gonna miss your opportunity. Like, how? I don't understand that. Like I said, I'm an MMA casual, but it doesn't make any sense. Stipe Miocic, the next contender for the heavyweight division, last fight was 2 years ago. He got knocked out, right? Colby Covington, last fight was last year versus Jorge Masvidal, who's ranked behind him, right? So I don't get why Dricus Du Plessis all of a sudden is the only one who, unless he's ready to fight in 2 months after defeating and stopping the #1 contender in his division, and all of a sudden he has to turn around in 2 months. That just doesn't make any sense. Khamzat Chimaev is unranked in the middleweight division. He has not defeated any ranked middleweights, none, right? So if he comes in and defeats Paulo Costa, that's fine. If he gets a title shot, I think it's a little bit crazy, right? Because he is undefeated. But if he does come in a very impressive victory over Paulo Costa and he's ready to go, I get it. Timing is everything in the UFC, but you can't also deny when someone is like in Dricus Du Plessis' position, right? Like, for him to defeat Robert Whittaker, not by decision, but to stop Robert Whittaker, and all of a sudden the UFC is saying, okay, that was nice, but now you have to turn around in 2 months and prepare for a 5-round fight in Sydney, Australia versus what some would consider one of the most dominant middleweight champions of all time. That just seems unfair. Right? It just seems unfair. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. I really don't. So, let me know your opinion of this story. I personally still think, if Paulo Costa defeats Khamzat Chimaev, I personally do not think that Paulo Costa should get another title fight. Israel Adesanya already defeated and humped Paulo Costa, so I don't think him defeating Khamzat Chimaev, who is a welterweight and unranked middleweight, I don't think that would make sense for Paulo Costa to jump over Dricus Du Plessis. I think Dricus Du Plessis still deserves the title shot. But if Khamzat Chimaev wins and he's ready to fight, I get it. I could see them moving on to Khamzat Chimaev quickly and having Israel Adesanya, who's fighting in September, and the winner of, or at least, and Khamzat Chimaev, who fights in October. If those two win and they're both ready to go, as soon as possible, I'm not going to complain about that, but I would not like the idea that Paulo Costa defeats Khamzat Chimaev and he gets a title shot over Dricus Du Plessis. But let me know your opinion of this story. I'm Jason. UFC. Today we have a story about UFC president Dana White is uncertain if Dricus Du Plessis will get the next middleweight title shot, saying, quote, "I don't love when guys turn down fights, even though they fought 2 months earlier and defeated their opponent by second round TKO, and their opponent was the number one contender in the division. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.